Welcome to Giants Latest. Make sure you hit the subscribe button to stay up to date on all things Giants. The top 30 visits continue this week and next week leading up to the draft, and the Giants have brought in a few other players. So let's talk about them. We're going to go a little bit more in depth with these specific players, obviously on the screen today, but there are some other players that they brought in that we're going to talk about on another day. So let's start with this. They are bringing in TCU wide receiver Savion Williams, two players from Oklahoma State. One of them is linebacker Colin Oliver, and the second one is cornerback Corey Black. Now, on top of that, they are also bringing in Arizona State running back Cam Scatabo, along with Syracuse quarterback Kyle McCord, who is also visiting the Steelers. So we know this is the time, right? They bring in all of these top 30 players. And let's go a little more in depth with some of these because one of the players that I want to talk about is Syracuse quarterback Kyle McCord. Now, he is a guy who had an amazing season this past year with Syracuse. He actually led college football in passing yards last year. And according to Jordan Schultz, this is a quote from several teams that he's spoken with, say he's one of the more undervalued players in the draft, highlighting his prototypical NFL size. He has a winning pedigree. He even beat Miami after being down by 21 points. So we love to see that. And on top of that, he has the capacity to read coverages. So let's talk a little bit more about him. So his draft projection is rounds 3 to 4, and the NFL comparison is Mitch Trubisky. So he is 6'3", 218 pounds. He actually is from New Jersey and was a senior at Syracuse. So he actually went to Ohio State before transferring over to Syracuse. But a couple things to know about him. So he is really good about allowing the routes to mature when necessary, good about sitting in the pocket, making smart decisions. He's has a good feel for buying time and beating the blitz, which we know the teams that the Giants go against, that's going to be something that they focus on, especially if they have a young quarterback like him. Throws a great catchable deep fade with good placement. So this is something that we talked about last week and that we've talked about covering other quarterbacks, is that the fact that they re-signed someone like Darius Slay, and you obviously have Malik Neighbors, you bring in Russ Wilson and Jameis Winston, who can throw a nice deep ball. The thought is that those wide receivers, maybe even Jalen Hyatt, who knows, are going to be able to take advantage of a quarterback that is able to do things like that. So hopefully, we'll see. I think he could be a good option for a later round pick, but let's talk about some of his weaknesses here. So is below average when it comes to getting the ball out quickly when needed. We all know, I think, how we feel about that after dealing with Daniel Jones for 6 years. He allows edge pressure to close and sack him without climbing. Now, certain things like this, I think, because he's a little bit on the older side, but he is coming out. Obviously, it would be a third to fourth round draft pick and wouldn't have the pressure of having to start immediately. I do feel like he's a guy that Dable would really take the time and be able to help develop. And with certain things like that, with allowing the pressure to close in, hopefully try to avoid some of those sacks is something that Dable could help him improve on, I hope. One last weakness that we have here is he has an average feel for placing throws between leveled coverage. So obviously there are a lot of reasons why this guy is not a first rounder or a second rounder. There are things that need to be improved upon, but the fact that he has dealt with adversity, he's been able to provide comeback wins. He led college football in passing yards last year after transferring from Ohio State to Syracuse. He obviously has good experience as a quarterback, could definitely be a guy to keep your eyes on if the Giants end up going for a quarterback in later rounds, which is I think what we're expecting them to do at this point. So now let's talk about running back Cam Scatabo, because I know there's been a lot of conversation about him, and also a guy that, if the Giants can get him at a later round, something that they would do. Now, his draft projection is round 4. So with the Giants having all of those third round and early fourth round picks, he is a name to watch. Now, he blew up during the college football playoff series when he ran for over 100 yards. He had multiple touchdowns, and he just really kind of showed off his skills and did an amazing job. So here are some things that you need to know about him if you're not familiar with him. So he played at Arizona State. He's from California. He's 5'9.5" and 219 pounds. And he played at Sacramento State before transferring to Arizona State. Couple strengths, and let's go through a couple weaknesses. Again, fourth round pick. We have seen that the Giants have brought in a bunch of running backs for top 30 visits, and probably a position that they are looking to upgrade, especially knowing that they have 8 draft picks this year as opposed to 6 last year. And, seeing if maybe they bring in some sort of competition, either for Devin Singletary or Tyrone Tracy, who of course had those issues with the fumbles and turnovers last year. So some strengths about him: he runs with excellent footwork in tight quarters. He is built low to the ground with a compact muscular frame. So not Saquon with the quads, but a guy that is muscular and strong and going to be able to break through some tackles and get through where needed. He's an elite run extender, relying on outstanding leg drive and contact balance. So all of those things are going to help him, like I said, with trying to break through tackles and things like that. And that's one of the strengths that we saw with Tyrone Tracy. So I think to have another running back that's able to do that would be great. Let's go through a couple weaknesses here. So he has heavy involvement in punishing collisions that could impact his durability. Now, there hasn't been a lot of talk about any type of injury history with him. Obviously, he's a running back, so we have to keep that in mind here, but I think that it's probably not something to worry about in the long run. And especially knowing that they have guys like Singletary and Tyrone Tracy, I think their focus is really that if they bring in a running back like Scadaboo, he's going to be involved in a rotation. He's not going to be an every down back. So a couple of the other things to know about him: he has to improve the ball security at the next level. So something that we're going to see if the new running back coach Liddell Betts, and something that Brian Dable can really help both of those players if they bring in someone like Scadaboo and Tyrone Tracy improve upon. And then last thing here is that he needs to limit the catch radius. It will require him to have an accurate passer. So he doesn't have a great catch radius and, doesn't have the best hands for a running back. But I think what we've seen from Dable up until this point, he likes a versatile back, but he's not always going to use him as a pass catcher. And, if they can really improve the wide receivers, like especially if they bring in Travis Hunter at 2, then I feel like the running backs are going to be asked to do a little bit less from a pass catching capability. So from what I saw from Cam Scadaboo, I liked what I saw. I think he's a great back, and I think he could be a good option for the Giants if they decide to go that way, especially in round 4 where he's projected to go. Speaking of wide receivers, let's talk about TCU wide receiver Savion Williams, who also came in for a visit for the Giants. Now, he is a taller, big-bodied wide receiver. He's 6'4", 222 pounds. I know there's a lot of talk about TCU wide receivers. So I was someone who loved Quentin Johnston. I wanted him so badly and was devastated when the Giants didn't end up picking him. Obviously, he's had a little bit of his struggles with the Chargers, but I'm not one of those people who say, like, you can't pick a TCU wide receiver because they don't always pan out in the NFL. It's too generalized. So I am not going to hold the fact that he went to TCU against him and say that, the Giants should pick him because he went to TCU. You let me know what you guys feel about that. But I remember people saying that last year about Caleb Williams. Oh, I would never draft a USC wide receiver. And I feel like Caleb Williams is going to go off this year with a new coach, new talent. I think he's going to be just fine. So let's get back to Savion Williams. So his draft projection is rounds 3 to 4, and the NFL comparison is Cordarrelle Patterson. Some of his strengths is that he has an elite blend of size, speed, and explosiveness, a guy that maybe could take over for Jalen Hyatt. Maybe Jalen Hyatt would be a trade guy, you never know. But he had a great combine, very athletic. He ran a 4.49 40, has a really nice highlight reel of touchdown catches on tape against UCF. So maybe give that a Google, see what you find there. He's got the size and strength to beat press and become a bully on slants and hitches. Now, I think that this is something that Dable is going to love, because we saw one of the reasons why they really love Malik Neighbors is they kept saying that Neighbors is a dog. He's a dog. And I get that feeling when we talk about someone like Savion Williams. And when you have the strengths, the fact that he's aggressive, he can become a bully on certain routes, the fact that he's got the strength and the size, like that is a guy that I want on my team. And for someone who's a later round pick, 3 to 4, if you're not getting Travis Hunter at 2, then you have the option to go for a wide receiver running back combo later in rounds 3 to 4. Think about what this guy could bring to the offense. Him and Malik Neighbors and Wan'Dale Robinson and Darius Slayton. I don't know. Gets me a little excited. I like it. Let's talk through one more strength, and then we'll go through a couple weaknesses here. So his He's good at creating chunk plays out of short tosses. Oh my God. Oh my God. Could you imagine him on a 3rd and 5 instead of Wan'Dale Robinson? And don't get me wrong, I love Wan'Dale Robinson, but I swear to God, I have complained about this for weeks and weeks, and Dable did it for the last 2 years, and it's driven me up an absolute wall. Someone needs to explain to me why 3rd and 7 you're throwing a 5-yard throw to Wan'Dale Robinson. I will never understand it. Throw it to a big bodied wide receiver. And I know part of it was on the quarterback because he wasn't giving him good ball placement and it wasn't accurate, and he wasn't putting Wandale in a position to succeed with the ball. I understand that. But maybe when you have that quarterback and you have that situation, don't throw it to Wandale. Why don't you just try and throw it to someone else, someone who's a little bit bigger? So here you go. Savion Williams could be a great option for us on 3rd downs when it's 3rd and short or 3rd and long, and you just need someone who's going to be able to grab the ball and make a move and make a play with the ball. Sign me up. Love that. Okay, let's talk through 2 weaknesses quickly. So his lack of focus and catch technique leads to drops. He will fit right in with all of the other Giants wide receivers because we know that that's a concern. But what I will say is that Darius Slayton is someone who has really improved upon his drops with his career with the Giants. And it's gotten way better since Dable and Mike Rowe have been the wide receiver coaches. And obviously Dable is the head coach. So that gives me some confidence that if they're bringing in someone like a Williams in round 4 who has a couple issues when it comes to drops, that's something that the Giants could help him improve upon. So would love that. He is a sublime athlete, but he's more of a utility player than a wideout. So again, someone that I don't think would be an every down wide receiver, and he doesn't have to be that when you have all of the other guys that we've already talked about. He's a guy that maybe just throw into the rotation instead of Jalen Hyatt, who you don't want to throw in on a 3rd down or a 2nd down or whatever. You bring in someone like Williams who can make a play when needed and who's a bigger bodied wide receiver. So I like the sounds of Savion Williams from what I've seen from him. You guys let me know what you think about him in the comments, and stay tuned for more Giants latest.